Hey y'all, I'm here to talk about the end of Attack on Titan anime, and I'll say right off the bat, I did not mind the ending, unlike some fans. There was also a New York Times article that came out where the creator, was interviewed. I'll put the link in the description box. And I'll read some of it before I say a little bit of my thoughts. So the question was asked, how much of the ending from the manga did you have in mind when you first began writing Attack on Titan, and how much did it change along the way? That was pretty much there from the beginning. The story that starts with the victim who then goes through the story and becomes the aggressor. That is something I had in mind right from the get-go. Along the way, certain aspects of the story didn't go as expected, and I adapted and fleshed out certain aspects, but I would say the ending of the story did not change much. Next question was, there's a much talked about scene where Armin, who is struggling with Aaron's turn into a mass murderer, seems to thank him for his actions. Can you talk about the meaning behind this conversation? My thinking there wasn't really that Armin was trying to push Aaron away for the sake of justice or whatnot. It was more that he wanted to, in a sense, take joint responsibility. He wanted to become an accomplice. In order to become an accomplice, Armin had to make sure that he used very strong wording so that he could take those sins upon himself, and so that was the intent behind it. Next question was, you have a scene where Aaron apologizes to a kid for the carnage he's going to commit and says he was disappointed in the world he saw beyond the walls. What does this say about his motivation? And the creator says, I think that refers to the fact that Aaron was dreaming of going to this world outside of the walls where there was nobody and there was nothing. There was an excitement about this world that was just empty, a clean slate. I don't really know whether that's a good or bad thing, and I don't really know why that was the ideal that I set up for Aaron as part of this story. But what I can say is that when he does get across the wall at that point, he says he sees that the world is really not that different from what's within the walls in the world that he already knows. I believe that's probably the disappointment that I'm referring to in that specific scene. Aaron says in the final episode of the anime that he had no choice but to follow the future that he says that he was powerless against the powers of the founding Titan. This is the next question. Armin even asks if he's really free. Was he telling the truth, or do you see this as him telling an excuse? And the creator says, it would have been nice if I could have changed the ending. Writing manga is supposed to be freeing, but if I was completely free, then I should have been able to change the ending. I could have changed it and said I wanted to go in a different direction. But the fact is that I was tied down to what I had originally envisioned when I was young. And so manga became a very restrictive art form for me. Similar to how the massive powers that Aaron acquired ended up restricting him. Next question was, you have been involved in the anime production for a little while, supervising the adaptation storyboards, and have been known for asking for changes to the story in the adaptation. Did you personally ask for anything for the final episode? And the creator says, yes, absolutely. I checked the script, but the main thing was the storyboards. There were different things I suggested. When it comes down to it, it's really the role of the production to make those decisions, but I wanted to at least give my input so that they could take those into account when they were making the final decisions. And the last question in the article says, the manga ends with you showing the future of Paradise and sort of the cycle of war continuing. Is there no end to the conflict and the cycle you present in the story? And the creator says, I guess there could have been an ending where it was a happy ending and the war ended and everything was fine and dandy. I guess that could have been possible. At the same time, the end of fighting and the end of contention itself kind of seems hokey. It kind of seems like it's not even believable. It's just not plausible in the world we're living in right now. And so sadly, I had to give up on that kind of happy ending. So now that I read the article, I would say it confirms to me that the vision of the creator was to give us this art that reflects our lives. If you look at the news and all the headlines, there's all kinds of war, all kinds of violence. You have this anime that has touched so many people because it speaks to so many issues that people go through, the longing for freedom, the sense of deception and oppression in our society. And I think Aaron speaks to a lot of people because he's that character that desperately wanted freedom, you know, and just the friendship that he had with Armin, and the love that he had, you know, from Mikasa. That trio was the heart of the story. So just for it to end, you know, with that trio growing up, you know, having their dream kind of come true in a twisted way, because if you think about it, Eren did create a world where it was safe for them to exist, at least Mikasa and Armin. Yes, it was a very twisted way he went about it, but you know, that sacrifice and the way that their dream had to change and manifest in such a twisted way because of how twisted the world is actually was compelling to me. And I really hope that, you know, more artists and people who, you know, want to use their creativity to reach people and speak people look at Attack on Titan as a masterpiece and a thing that can really be a big teaching moment for a lot of people, because at the end of the day, you know, the story is compelling because it reflects society. And as much as we all want that happy ending, you know, we don't get happy endings in real life. And I just think the journey along the way was also really fun with Attack on Titan. Like, I remember when I first saw, you know, the anime, I had watched it with some of my students, you know, in anime club, and I was like, what am I watching, you know? But the creator had said the inspiration for even the Titans was the fact that he had seen this drunk person that was like incoherent to the point that he couldn't speak, and it was almost like the alcohol had took away his humanity. And he realized then that the scariest thing in the world could be humans, you know, and that's why the Titans, you know, are human-like, and they're kind of just like the basest form of what humans do, just like consuming things. They don't even need the, you know, the things they consume for nutrition. They're just doing it. And look at our consumer society, you know, so there's so many images and like metaphors like that. So it comes from a deep place, and the story is so well told. Like, I can't even tell you how much I longed for all the secrets to be revealed. I had started watching the anime only, but I switched to the manga because I was like, what in the world is in Grisha Yeager's basement? I need to know. And the anime was going too slow, so then that's when I switched to reading the manga. And then I was doing, you know, both at one time. And just the fact that it was so well told and so beautiful and cherished by so many, to the point that they even did a funeral for Eren in real life, just shows how incredible this show is. Yes, it's not your typical happy ending, but at the end of the day, I think the main trio went through such a riveting journey of just, you know, being trapped in those walls, fighting their way to just survive, and then Eren, you know, making all those decisions that ultimately did lead to a sense of freedom for his friend, to the extent that he sacrificed himself and a whole bunch of people that he unfortunately killed along the way. But it was beautiful that Mikasa, you know, and Armin still got to share the burdens with him. And I think that's the biggest message for me. Like, as twisted as the world is, the more we can do to, you know, help bear each other's burdens and to make life a little bit bearable for the next person is what we should do. So I'm a fan of the ending of Attack on Titan. I love the show. It was a wild ride, and I recommend it as long as you're not easily frightened by a little bit of violence. But you know, the world is violent, so again, I wouldn't recommend it to like small children, but anime lovers who are not afraid of a little bit of action, get into it.